Where does the fault lie for recent failings of numeracy in schools?
First Minister.
Well, the responsibility for Scottish education is mine and the Scottish Government's. I make no bones about that. There is much to be very positive about in Scottish education. We have a new curriculum in place which has been praised by the OECD. We see record numbers of young people coming out of school with higher passes and advanced higher passes. We see record numbers of young people going into university. But we have made very clear we want to raise standards in our schools even further, and we want to close the attainment gap. That's why we have a new national improvement framework. It is why we have a new attainment fund, so £120 million now going directly into the hands of head teachers to give head teachers the ability to do things that they think can help raise standards and close the attainment gap. And interestingly, we're not doing, as the Tories are planning, south of the border, investing in schools by taking away free school meals. We're going to protect free school meals for primary 1 to 3 pupils because that helps learning. We're also extending childcare because all of the evidence says that it is better quality early years education that helps to improve attainment in schools. So we're absolutely focused on making sure that we improve education and get the challenges we've got in education addressed, and that's why I have said repeatedly that for me as First Minister it is my top priority.
You've had 10 years.
And
you've been in charge for 10 years.
Which is why I'm proud of the fact that we've got
£1.5 billion worth of cuts, 4,000 fewer teachers, 1,000 fewer support staff, and a widening gap between the richest and the poorest kids. That's your record. That's 10 years of the SNP.
Firstly, Kezia, the gap between the richest and the poorest is not widening. The gap between the richest and poorest is narrowing, and we're determined
to name one source that proves that.
One source. That's why we are investing more in education.
You can't you can't provide the source because you know you've just told a porky there. That gap is just as stubborn as ever.
Look at it's closing? University access. You see the gap between the richest and poorest.
We're talking
closing.
about schools.
In schools, you see the National 5 qualifications. Kezia, it is National 5 qualifications. There is a narrowing of the gap.
Rubbish.
We want to go even further. But you say we've been in charge for 10 years. That's why I'm proud of the fact we've got record exam passes in our schools. I'm proud of the fact we've extended early years education and are going even further. And I'm proud of the fact that we have protected free education for university students, because if it had been up to you, people would have been having to pay to go to university.
It's a scandal, Nicola. It's all because you're obsessive.
Hold on a moment. Let's go back to Louise, who asked the question. You asked whose fault it is for the failings in literacy and numeracy in schools. Whose fault do you think it is?
Well, the question wasn't answered, firstly.
We'll go around everybody else before we finish on this.
Where do you start? The curriculum for excellence has been panned by teachers. I'm a teacher myself. I teach maths. You talk about record higher and advanced higher passes. Well, that is going to happen if you lower the standard of exams. The standard of exams going out is absolutely disgraceful. The National 5 does not look like what standard grade credit did. I'm only speaking about maths because that's my area. So if you're going to lower the standard of exam, then you would see passes presumably rising.
Okay, well let's take that point and go to Ruth Davidson.
Well, I think firstly, thank you very much for the question. I mean, I think it's absolutely astonishing to sit here and listen to a First Minister of Scotland that wants applause for finally getting round to cleaning up a mess that her party's been in charge of creating for the last 10 years. There's lots of things that we need to do differently in our schools. First of all, there was some really good intentions behind Curriculum for Excellence, but we have to be honest enough to say that it's not working. That's why we want to have a full review, and we're working with educational experts to do it. The guidance for teachers runs to 20,000 pages. That's not good enough. Teachers haven't got a fighting chance of being able to teach this. We've got a problem in that every time we fall down an international ranking, the Scottish Government's solution to that is to pull us out of doing the tests so we don't know how we're doing against other countries. We've also got the issue where we don't have independent inspectors for our schools, and we don't have enough, and they were so busy trying to help out because Curriculum for Excellence was so hard to introduce, they didn't do any inspections at all for several years. That's not good enough for raising standards. We need to empower our teachers, we need to hire more because we've got 4,000 fewer than when Nicola Sturgeon came to power, particularly in maths and the STEM subjects. We're seeing that a quarter of maths training places aren't filled. I've repeatedly asked the First Minister to look at innovative new ways to get teaching staff into Scotland, including some charities like Teach First and others. I'm not wedded to that, but there's lots more we can do on top of that. And the idea that Nicola Sturgeon is sitting here and saying, it's all right, guys, I've got this, after it fell apart on her watch, is an absolute disgrace.
Willie Rennie.
Nicola's right when she talks about investing in the early years is the best investment we can make in a child's future. She's right when she says that we should have an attainment fund that will invest in closing that inequality gap that's really stubborn, as Kez was talking about. She's right about all those things. But why has it taken so long? She's been in power for 10 years. We've been asking her to do these things for an awful long time, many, many years, and she denied it at first. Then she accepted it. And the reality is, and I have to say this, that she's so distracted by her obsession with independence that she is now letting our education system down.
Go back to the audience, but I should let the First Minister come in on that.
Well, you know, the fact of the matter is there are challenges in Scottish education, but there are also real things to be proud of in Scottish education.
You've listed the achievements. The question was, where does the fault lie for recent failings? And there are failings. That's on you.
I started my answer by saying the responsibility for Scottish education is mine and my government. So, you know, I've not made any bones about that. There are teacher recruitment challenges, not just in Scotland, but in many different countries. So we are looking at getting innovative, different ways to get people into the teaching profession. We're investing more directly to head teachers. Incidentally, I think all of these parties, with the exception of the Greens, voted against the budget that put that extra money into the hands of teachers. Well, we're not cutting money to schools, we're increasing money to schools by £120 million. So we're taking the action that is empowering our teachers to take the initiatives that will improve not just literacy and numeracy, but the standards across education. So we are not shying away from these challenges, we're addressing these challenges, and we're going to continue to do so. And what we find is that some of the things that we bring forward that are new and innovative and sometimes controversial and challenging, we find that Willie Rennie opposes them. So we brought in a new National Improvement Framework, and Willie Rennie has opposed it every step of the way. So we'll continue to make sure we do the right things by parents and students right across the country.
Okay,
let's